So, last we left off our group of awakened individuals. They had recently departed from their previous lives, so to speak. The lives that they had led throughout the entirety of it in the realm of Dormer Hall, under the watchful purview of the Hollow Saint. This place is one of sloth. This place is one in which you cannot help but feel, now you are awakened, you cannot help but feel that life is a lie. That life was not where you were supposed to be. Having been gifted memories, having been awakened to this idea that this world is not what it should be, you have ventured away from that place. You have ventured into the wildlands. The areas around Dormer Hall are swampy and dangerous and dark and sinister in so many ways, and you have experienced all of these things. You have had to deal with a nature that is not what it should be. You have had to deal with your own memories pushing against your own mind and telling you that things are wrong, but not fully understanding why or how. You have had to push yourself forward when all of your life you have spent it not pushing yourselves. And in this experience, you have found companionship with one another. You have found a communal experience with which you can all share some degree. This life that you now lead, so much different than life you had led before. Maybe now it can have more meaning. Maybe now it can have a meaning. Before you can really contemplate what that means, however, we should also mention where we left off in our last game session. The traveling group moving through this fetid swamplands managed to find a river that could mean life, perhaps, could mean, at the very least, direction, could mean something off in the distance. And as you considered following that path, you were confronted, presented with figure. A riverboat that seemed to materialize out of the mist. Fairly sizable gondola, really, not much more than that, drifted towards the riverbank. However, the driver of this gondola was not what you would have expected. A very tall, hooded figure with very elongated limbs. The dark hood pulled over so far that you cannot see through the shadows into it to see a face. Surging this gondola forward and steering it with a massive blackened bronze staff, they gracefully, almost supernaturally, guided their craft to the edge of the riverbank. They seemed to beckon you to come aboard, wordlessly, with just a gesture of their massive arm. It is important to remember, too, one final detail. The river water erupted by this realm seemed to change in the close proximity of this vessel. For several inches around the edges of where the gondola touches water. It is not blackened or fetid or corrupted. It is pure. It is crystal clear. It is so very different from anything that you are used to. And yet, there the vessel sits, with its hooded boat standing there and waiting, beckoned outstretched arm, gesturing towards the vessel. What do you do? Go ahead, Ava.
I feel like it's just, I want to insight check this guy, like, or at least vibe check the guy.
You can absolutely do that with an instinct roll.
Yeah.
I'll also remind you all, I don't know what everybody's hope was at before, but if you have less than 2, you can bring yourself back up to 2. I am starting today's session with 4 fear, because I have 4 players tonight. And I'll also let you know, Ava, that Cookie Mandius has thrown out a hail for you.
Thank you, Cookie.
In chat. I believe that we had some left over from last time as well.
Okay, so that is 19 with hope. Yeah, 19 with hope.
Take your hope then. As Dig Deep is perceiving this figure, they cannot help but feel fear. They cannot help but fear this unknown entity, this creature, this being, this person that seems so different from anything that they have ever known. Not even their awakened memories are triggering into their mind of recognition for this. Thank you, Archaic Prospect, for the bits. Now everybody has a dream mode. As Dig Deep is perceiving this entity, they do not detect malice. They do not detect greed. They do not detect anything, really. They also, for what it's worth, don't detect friendliness either. Almost like this entity is about as neutral they could be.
I do not sense malice within this one, but not excitement. It is neutral, but not like a nothingness, just even. Balance? Strange.
Well, I'm definitely curious, which is a bit strange. I have questions. Maybe they'll have answers.
This is a feeling I don't know if I'll get used to yet. Curiosity.
It's strange, but it's rather exciting.
That's another feeling I'm not going to get used to yet. Excitement.
I think Reishi starts to feel impatient for the first time ever, and so steps forward toward this gondola.
Does Reishi go to get in?
Yes, I think so.
Please make for me a presence reaction roll.
Mhm.
This is because of the contrariness with which this action is for Reishi's entire life before this point, before becoming awakened.
7 with fear.
Is a failure. Is a failure with fear, which means that you gain a point of corruption. What does that put your corruption at?
Good question. Let me remember where I put it.
You better have notes.
I do have notes. Hold on. It is 6 points of corruption.
Which means that you need to mark another one of your abilities to be at disadvantage. Was
Got
presence that ability already? From your 3
No.
points?
Mm-mm.
I feel like then that presence is the one that you must mark now. So, what this looks like, and I know, Kay, you wanted to jump in here, but I need to finish this action first. What this looks like for Reishi, as they step forward and go to step into this vessel, they feel the pull of the Hollow Saint upon them. They feel the darkness of this realm, and they let out a gasp from it as this corruption rises up within them. They start to writhe for a moment, clutching their head. And before any of the rest of you can really react, Reishi starts to fall into the water of the room. As that happens, however, this boatman, with their massive arms, seems to grow in size even further, and their arm lashes out with ridiculous speed, catching Reishi in the moment. Their hand so large, their fingers so long that it seems to wrap around Reishi's torso, almost like an enormous spider, clinging to Reishi and catching them before they could fall into the river, potentially fall to their doom. Reishi, you are lifted up off the ground with ease. With almost scary ease. And gently guided into the gondola. Settled down onto your backside and leaning your back up against the edge of the inside of the boat. And very gently, a hand is pulled away, and all of you see the figure diminish back to their still impressive 10 to 12 foot size. But still, they almost shrink. They kind of wither in a way, coming back down to their normal size. And based on your success earlier, Ava, I'm going to say that dig deep and tell that that was strenuous for them. Almost instinctually, you feel that. There's no obvious physical sign. They do not heave or breathe heavily or really sag their shoulders much. But something tells you that that was difficult. Okay, I will pass the spotlight to you now, as you wanted to do something from before that I had to interrupt. My apologies.
It's okay. I was going to say that Pools is probably, like, I think you said that the figure had beckoned, so I don't think that Pools has developed much of a spine, so I think they begin to acquiesce and would try to say, probably louder than they've ever spoken before, like, where would you take us, boatman? As they, like, start to get into the boat.
They simply point west with their long arm gesturing single bony finger west. And as you start to get into the boat, I need for you to also make a presence reaction. However, this time, you have to do so with disadvantage, because Reishi has already drawn a spotlight to this space, and there is some element of attention upon which the Hollow Saint has drawn to it. Now, I'll remind you that you do have motes. I posted them in chat. You have actually quite a few. You can use one to counteract the disadvantage.
Could I use 2 to make it an advantage?
So you're thinking of using 2 to get a hope and be able to spend the hope to get an advantage, right? But you can only spend hope to give someone else advantage by assisting them. So you could spend the one to counteract your disadvantage, and then someone else could spend a hope to give you advantage. You all do have an opportunity here to kind of assist each other through. I will say that Reishi in this moment is probably unable to assist with that. I feel like they're still recovering from their experience. But the rest of you, if you did pool your resources and kind of circularly help each other, you could do that if you wanted to expend those resources, which I would greatly encourage you to do.
Oh, well, I don't know, because everyone's attention's on Reishi.
Attention is on this space now.
I mean, I'm happy to use my moat, but
What's your presence like?
big fat goose egg.
Oh, I'll give my motes for that because mine is also a 0. So.
But you have some hope, so you don't have to
Yeah.
spend a mote to do that just yet. You can just spend a hope instead of spending 2 motes. Kay, you will need to spend a mote in order to counteract your own disadvantage.
That's good. I'll use that for sure.
So
Okay.
if you are going to spend that hope, Ava, go ahead and roll the d6 so that Kay knows how much to add to their roll.
4.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. Alright. That's 15 plus 4, 19 with it's fear. But
That's okay. A 19 is a success. And I will point out that it would not have been a success without that assist.
absolutely not.
Just gonna
and-
like old lady like help you cross the street onto the boat.
Yeah, if you had failed with fear, you would have gained a point of corruption. But because you succeeded, even though it was with fear, you do not gain a point of corruption. And so, as you move forward and step into this boat, you hear the bells ring in your mind. You hear Dormer Hall, and there's a moment in which you like blink your eyes and feel like you're in Dormer Hall for a moment. Not that you see that you are, but more like that feeling rises up in your subconscious of being in Dormer Hall. And Ava, what does Dig Deep say to this moment as they see Pools kind of faltering to get into the boat that pushes them through it?
We were already heading west. There's no reason to turn back. Straighten yourself, and we will see it through.
Pools gets into the gondola. Wisp and Dig Deep, I'm assuming that you all would like to join in this effort as well.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Just so you know, the difficulty now increases.
Why is it so hard to get in this boat?
Because the more that get on, the more attention the Hollow Saint diverts to this place. Which should also tell you that whatever's happening here is not to the Hollow Saint's design and goes against the Hollow Saint's wishes. Okay, because you did technically succeed at that, you can offer assistance to either of these individuals as they get on the vessel. You just have to spend the hope to do so.
Was it just one hope?
One hope will allow you to give advantage to someone else.
I'll give advantage back to Dig Deep in slumber. Please and thank you.
Okay.
Heck yeah. I will also use a dream mode to take away my disadvantage.
Okay. So what is the d6 that Ava can add to her roll?
Let's see. That's a 4 too. Yes.
Nice.
All right. Okay, math.
Dig deep and roll well, please.
19 plus 4 with hope.
23.
Okay, I was right.
And you said with hope?
Yes.
Okay, you don't gain a hope from a reaction roll, though.
Yeah.
So just remember that.
Mhm.
Excellent. So you are able to kind of... Dig Deep is able to kind of push forward and make their way onto the vessel. As they do so, there's a point at which Dig Deep stares into the waters of the river as they are kind of balancing themselves on, like, 1 foot in the gondola, 1 foot on the riverbank, trying to, find the slight swaying and pull themselves all the way forward into it. And they get lost in seeing the flow of the water. There's a swirling of vortex within the water that catches their attention, and they start to lose their balance a little bit, which shakes them out of staring too heavily into that vortex, and then yank themselves into the gondola. You can see that the hooded figure was reaching for Dig Deep to catch them should they fall, but stopped as they pulled themselves into the gondola. And if Dig Deep glances back over the edge now that they're safely inside, they don't see the vortex any longer. That fleeting moment was triggering something. You feel like there's a memory there that you just can't unlock just yet. That. It is Wisp's turn. Now, either Dig Deep or Pools can assist Wisp in this moment, but not both of you. You will also have disadvantage unless you counter it.
I would like to counter it.
Okay.
Pools will be happy to assist. They have a high from helping one person, so we'll see if we can do it again. Get rid of this hope. That is a 5.
That's good.
Thank you.
Because
Fingers
once
are crossed.
again, the difficulty increased.
Cool. 20. Okay, I rolled 2 8s.
Oh, that's a
On
critical
my-
success.
Yeah.
Which would have
Awesome.
also been 21 with...
But I have a -1 to my
Oh,
presence. Yeah, it's fine.
right. -1. 20 was the difficulty, by the way. But you also
Oh,
got a critical
beautiful.
success. So I'll actually pass the spotlight to you for this. And I would like for you to tell us, what does the voice of the Hollow Saint sound like and what do they say as they start whispering in Wisp's mind? And Wisp is able to block out before leaping onto the boat.
Wisp hears it's kind of like does your hearing ever go out in an ear and it kind of comes back slowly? It's just that sort of like muffled sound and feeling at first, and then a whisper reaches her, and the voice is syrupy and saccharine and terrifying. It asks her why she feels this curiosity and desire for action. They're reaching for something, and they don't wait for a response in her mind or verbally, and she pauses, and they push, and it feels like she is being pulled into this new awakened self, sort of beginning to separate from who she was before this new knowledge. And the feeling of losing this curiosity and excitement and motivation is unacceptable to her. So she holds on, digs her claws into the ground, and keeps those two parts of herself together. And the voice goes quiet, and the muffling of her ears goes away as well.
And as she opens her clenched eyes from that experience, she finds herself on the boat. Not entirely sure exactly moments that led to getting on board the vessel, but she's there. As you all turn, however, to look at Robin, Robin is standing there, almost frozen. Hasn't said anything. Unmoving. There's a part of you feels like something is wrong. You start to see Robin's lips move, almost like they're whispering something. They're saying something themselves. and their eyes go wild. And that spot on their hand, that scar that they're constantly been scratching at, bursts with vile, putrid black liquid. And they scream out in agony as they clutch their hand. The boatman reaches for them, growing in size once again, obviously straining to everyone now for what they're attempting to do. But Robin is just out of reach. They turn, run. Before any of you can really say or do anything, the mists swallow them up. The boatmen slowly withers back down to their normal, but still large size. And they wrap their bony fingers around the blackened bronze staff. You can tell that there is frustration in their body language. But with a simple movement, they push against the bank of the river, and the gondola drifts out, and the flow of the river catches. You all start moving down the river's water. Reishi is still upon the boat, slumped, feeling the corruption rising within them. I will pass the spotlight to all of you. You do.
Careless Whisper, I'm sorry about your friend.
She nods a little bit, looking kind of confused. She doesn't know what just happened. Is it real? Is any of this even real? Because how did that happen?
I did not know him too well. I've heard the stories of how he was different from everyone else. And I did place some judgment due to that. However, he seemed strong and capable to have survived for so long in our home. And then in that fight that we just had, if it grants you any kindness, I can see that if anyone is to survive, he can.
What is Reishi doing?
I think Reishi is holding their head. I think this, feeling the corruption rising and seeing Robin sort of stumble and flee back. They're wondering about themselves, and I think hearing Dig Deep saying these things, I think Reishi feels worried about what's, rising in them, and so just starts muttering to themselves a little bit, and I think you hear, perhaps it would be more merciful if he didn't survive it.
When Reishi says that, Wisp's head turns to look, and for a moment you think that she is angry with you for suggesting that that's a better outcome, and that look leaves immediately, and she looks confused at the feeling that themselves, and you see her processing and kind of getting to what Reishi said, understanding it and accepting it as probably something true. But everything feels wrong.
Well, may we be luckier than Robin then, hopefully.
As Pools says that, you all take a collective moment to perhaps look around, and you can see that even though it feels like you've only been in this riverboat for minutes, you can already see that the landscape around you is starting to change. You're moving significantly faster than the river Ace normally would be. I'll let you decide in this moment if the way that you know that is from an awakened memory or not. Because certainly none of your mundane selves would have any sense of that. But as you're looking out, you can already see that the landscape is starting to change from swampland to more plains wetland. Still very wet, mind you, but different. Not as putrid. That is the best word to use. Not as harsh.
Can I use my druidic senses to feel the difference between this area, and I guess it's mostly like through nature and its corruption, like how it differs from ours? Is it under a different effect? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I would say that you can go ahead and make a knowledge check. If you like. This will be a comprehend. If you have a experience that you think could apply, you can certainly spend the hope to do that.
I have 10 to nature, natural explorer, and control corruption.
I think either 10 to nature or natural explorer could apply to that circumstance, so you're more than welcome to spend the hope to add that if you wish.
Yeah, I will. Okay, so does that mean I add a d6 then?
No, you just add the 2.
Just add the
+2 for your experience.
It's a +3. I took a
well,
bonus during our
go.
level up. So that is a 9 and an 8 +3, which is 16, 17, 20, and that's on the hope die.
And did you add anything for your knowledge?
Oh, the +3 is my... Oh, no, I didn't add my knowledge. My knowledge is +1, so is that 21?
That is 21.
21.
That is a success with hope, and you gain a memory shard.
Oh, okay.
Remember, that's the custom thing for the campaign frame, that if you succeed on ability check in which you added a experience, you gain a memory shard, which allows you to create a temporary experience later on at any point, really.
Okay. Ooh.
Not
can
now.
I bank it for now?
Yeah,
Or-
you bank
okay,
it.
Perfect.
You bank it.
Perfect. I'll put a note.
Yep. And so, as Pools is looking out at this landscape, they can understand that while the area is still very corrupted, the further you move away from Dormer Hall, the less potent that corruption is. The more difficult it is for a Hollow Saint to exert their dominance. But that also means that the area might be even more wild. So it's worth paying attention to.
I think I'll say out loud that I think it's safer than being closer to the Hollow Saint, but it means that the Hollow Saint's influence is lessened here. Be careful.
Hey, since you have the spotlight, since you just succeeded on a experience-related roll, would you like to share for us an experience from your awakened self, a memory from your awakened self that is triggered by this event?
Absolutely. Okay. So if you remember, I, in my awakened self, was a kind of a fawn running through the forests. They looked, I guess they were forests. They looked bizarre. I'd never seen anything like it. This memory is of them they're on a small-ish raft like this, not too dissimilar, ferrying down a river of some sort, but it's not just the water around the boat that is crystal clear. It is all of the water, all of the same kinds of trees and flora that I had seen in the previous, but also some more fantastical flowers, and I can notice beasts hiding in the trees, whereas this is still a little bit, in comparison, desolate in our present. But yeah, I'm looking over at the water rushing past in the boat, and then I heave, and I'm pulled back out.
And so the rest of you can kind of see the momentary disruption for Pools as they, start talking to you about all of that, and seem then to kind of almost disassociate a little bit as they experience that memory recall. As this boat continues to move forward, you can see very clearly that the boatman is not doing anything other than guiding through the waters. There is no impact upon the vessel. The rougher the water doesn't seem to really make the ride any rougher. And in many ways, it's smooth sailing, so to speak, for you, even if the waters are not quite so smooth. Before I have you reach a destination, I'm going to ask, is there anything in particular that you would do on this journey?
Above table real quick, and that will kind of help guide. Are we aware of the other Sin Lords, or just
No.
the Hollow Saint? Okay. I think Dig Deep is trying to kind of get into that mindset of hearing the nature around her and get a semblance of... She wants to know if... She wants to get an understanding, are we going towards a danger that is akin to the Hollow Saint or something different? I think that's the way I want to put it.
And how will you go about trying to answer that question?
I would like to use my experience, Song of the Earth, to ground myself and listen to the noise and the sounds around her. And if it helps a little bit, I also have an ability with the witch called communing, and I can do that with like a nature spirit or otherworldly being. So kind of just getting into that meditative feeling. I think she's going to also look down at the water as she's contemplating on that focus.
Is there a spellcast roll involved in your communing, or?
Once during the calm, I can ask him a question. I can ask a question and then roll a number of d6s equal to my spellcast trait, and then choose one value from the roll resulting in the chart that they provided for me as well. So how many? And I can roll 3d6s for that with that question. And I think it is just that. What's awaiting us? Is it as bad as the Hollow Saint or something different?
I'm going to go ahead and also attach an instinct roll to this.
Okay.
Go ahead and roll instinct for me real quick.
Okay. Okay. Instinct is +2. And can I add my experience to that?
If you spend the hope.
Okay, I will. Alright, so that is 16, 18, 20 with hope.
Okay, get your hope back then.
Ooh.
To answer your initial question before you roll your d6s and get other things.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell very clearly that you are moving into a space where no one Sin Lord has dominion. Or at the very least, not that you would fully understand that, more so, the Hollow Saint does not have dominion over the space that you're moving into now. And so, it's instinctually you know that means that it has to be better. That isn't to say it is not without danger, but it is perhaps less about the danger of the Sin Lord, which for you at this moment would feel like the most dangerous element of your existence, or the most significant threat to your existence. So what are the other witchy questions that you get?
Essentially, with the roll of the dice, I get essentially like a type of premonition or a sensation in regards to the question that was asked. So, let me see. Which one do I want to do? I think I'm going to pick the I hear sounds or see a vision relevant to that answer.
As Dig Deep is looking out into the landscape, that's where they get the sense of you're starting to move out of the dominion of the Hollow Saint, or at least where the Hollow Saint does not have as much control. It's when she looks into the water that the premonition comes. It's when she looks into the water where she can see at the edges of the boat the crystal clear water, the pure, uncorrupted water. And then look back and forth between that and the putrid, corrupted, vile no longer nature's element one. And in that moment, she has a premonition regarding the destination of which she journeys. And she feels a shiver run down her spine, and she knows she goes to a place where death visited.
I think the only thing people can notice as she's just staring off is that her tail is just doing like a rhythmic thumping against the wood. It's like,
Like a cat, like you're thinking, or like a dog, like you're excited?
a cat like thinking.
Angrily thinking.
Yeah, very angrily thinking.
So I will also reiterate for the rest of you, since the spotlight is still on you, that the boatman has not done anything other than guiding the vessel. And as soon as spotlight passes back to me, it will limit your potential interactions that you can have shortly thereafter. So if you wish to interact with the boatman, now is the time. All right, then.
No, I don't know that Pools would. Will you tell us when to get off, or do we just jump? That's what I'm going to ask the boatman.
As Pools asks that question, the boatman simply gestures their head towards you, almost like a nod, but it is as if someone was nodding at you that didn't really understand or didn't do that sort of action on as part of their normal capacity for communication.
That did not clear anything up for me. Perfect.
As the riverboat surges through these waters, moving faster than the river would normally allow, you start to see up ahead break in the fog. You see what appears to be the remnants of a kind of pier. You look ahead, and beyond that, there is land, and there are vague shapes, not quite buildings, but almost structurally shaped. Your riverboat begins to slow. And as it slows, I'm going to thank Troll Lord Games for the raid. Thanks so much, Raiders. Welcome in. Hope you had a fun time playing D&D. As you notice the riverboat slowing and becoming a little bit more normal, so to speak, in its movement on the river waters, you can spot in this space from which you are traveling towards not buildings, but rather the remnants of buildings. The riverboat is drifting towards what appears to have once been a pier that is very structurally damaged. There are only remnants of it, and only your awakened memories are able to tell you what that could have been. And the riverboat glides towards this broken pier. With supernatural ease, it drifts into the broken remnants of it, and slowly comes to a halt in a space with which you could exit the front of the boat. without, hopefully, falling in the waters below.
I wait for a beat. I'm gonna try to hop off.
You are able to hop off. You leap off of the front of the gondola. It does kind of warble a little bit within the water from the weight of your surging out, but you leap onto the broken remnants of this pier. Maybe stumble a little bit, catching your footing, but...
It's like when you think there's an extra step.
Yes, exactly. But you catch yourself nonetheless, and the wood groans under your weight. Groans mightily, as if nothing has touched this pier in a very long time.
I think since Reishi had trouble getting on the boat, they're probably a little eager to get off. This whole experience has made them uncomfortable, and so they're right behind Pools.
As Reishi leaps off of the boat, I think that there's a part of Reishi that braces themselves for the feeling of the Hollow Saint once again exerting that control that they had before, but it does not happen. Reishi leaps off behind Pools, perhaps grabs Pools' hand to steady themselves, but you are there. The groaning of the wood is more substantial now. It makes you wonder if it will be able to support more of you, or any of you, much longer, and perhaps might motivate you to move towards the land.
Yeah, let's make some room.
Yeah.
She's gonna wait for folks to move a little bit, and then she's gonna use her staff to help support her as she gets off the boat.
As Dig Deep gets off of the boat, the pier does not groan so much as actively start to splinter beneath her weight. And so the grace with which she used her staff to balance herself and such is very quickly replaced with expedient urgency to all but towards the land, leaving one last figure on the boat.
Wisp glances back at the boatman, unsure what to say or do. This is... a lot has happened in such a short amount of time, but she sees something that is familiar. These people from her previous life before all of this began, and she thinks that it's probably the safest option to continue on with them, no matter what madness is coming their way. And so...
Well, speaking of madness coming their way, Lord Kasumba coming the way with a huge raid. Welcome in, raiders. Things are just starting to get a little bit juicy here as our companions have exited the boat that they seem to think is, a boat leading them to death, and maybe that's a little true, maybe it's not. I don't know, we'll see. But to pass the spotlight back to you, Beth, I will add that as they are looking back, Wisp sees the boatmen just resting upon their staff. Very, very neutral. There is no... You still can't see their face, obviously, but their body language depicts nothing that would tell you that they care one way or another at this point on what you do.
I think at this point, Wisp is more interested in those who would care one way or another. And that is a feeling that's growing deeper and deeper. And she will turn back to her friends and
Before she
leave.
turns, as she makes that realization, she glances back and sees them making that realization. And as she glances one final time back at the boatman lowers their shoulders, lowers their head, still holding on to the staff, and almost bows. The Wisp.
It gives her just the briefest pause. And she decides to take that as support in moving forward. So she will launch herself from the boat as far down the pier as she can get. She has decent agility. I have an
Cat's
experience.
grace, if you will.
Maybe. I have an experience, the cat-like reflexes as well, if I wanted to throw that in the mix, but...
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man.
You don't need to roll anything.
Okay.
There's no dire situation upon which you have to roll. So, you leap from the boat, land much further down than the others, as they had leapt off of the boat, but they are still waiting for you at the end, and as you make your way down, the rest of you, watching Wisp approach you, glance beyond Wisp to see the boatman, and find nothing but an empty river. The boatman and the boat are both gone from your sight. The flickering moment of which you watched Wisp and diverted your attention away was enough for the being that brought you here to disappear. You stand on this riverbank now at the end of this pier on land that is significantly more solid than anything you have ever stepped foot on, other than perhaps rock itself. The land surrounding is plainsland. It's still a little bit squishy, perhaps, underfoot, because it is still quite wet, but it is certainly not swamp. I don't know if we have answered the question for pools or dig deep. Do either of you wear shoes?
No.
I mean, a
It's
Galapa and a Draconis, I would imagine not, but I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be sure. And so particularly... Go ahead, Kay.
I was just going to say, it made it easier to soak up the calming waters of the pools and the touching all the fungi and stuff. I'm assuming some of it, at least, was psychedelic, so made it
that's
easy.
Quite an interesting observation for pools in this case, too, because I feel like this land is by no means pure. It is still corrupted, mind you. But since the two of you both have characters that are ostensibly extremely tuned into nature with your awakened memories, more so, as the two of you step on this land and feel the squishy earth between your toes, between your claws, it feels so very different than anything you've experienced before. While still corrupted, it is not like dormer hall. Not even like the pools upon which your Galapa previously lived. You almost feel captivated for a moment by it. Would either of you say or do anything with that?
Captivated, you say? Kind of captivated. I guess I don't know very many feelings yet, so keep it there.
I think the nature's tongue ability, I think it's something where it's like it kind of always on. It's just a matter of if you want to like push it. So I would like to try to listen to nature to get a sense of what's around us, maybe. That's an instinct roll, so let me just
Yes,
do that real quick.
it is an instinct roll. However, I'm going to impose disadvantage on you with it.
Okay. Alright. And do I just roll it twice, or do I do the d6?
You take a d6 and subtract that d6 from your total.
Okay, got it.
Do you have any motes that you could use?
Plenty of motes.
I do have plenty of motes. Can I use a mote for this?
Certainly.
Cool, thank you. That is a 12, and I needed exactly a 12 to get a success on that, and it was with hope.
Okay. Take a point of hope. As you activate this, it's important to note that Dig Deep has always lived a life with fear, even if they have not known that they lived that life with fear. Dig Deep has not known nature firsthand like this before. Even now, with the memories, it is still almost like a second-hand experience. There is no life here. There are no creatures that call this place their home. The grass is virtually the only thing growing. In the far distance, beyond what you see of the rubbles of whatever this place might have been, still perhaps a mile beyond is when you see your first tree. There is no overgrowth. There are no trees. There is nothing here but the ground and the rubble of dozens upon dozens of structures. But while you succeeded at that check, the fear creeps in to Dig Deep. And I'm going to spend one of my fear to activate this. Call of that fear resides so heavily within Dig Deep in this moment, Ava, that she is not going to be able to shake it. At least not right away. You now have to roll all rolls using a d8 for a hope die instead of a d12 until you succeed at a check with hope. Because instinctively, in this space, you now understand your premonition from before. That death visited this place. It's never left. The rest of you, as you look out into this place, you see, as I described, dozens of buildings fall into rubble and ruin. From the distance that you are away from them, they are mostly stone, for certain. And while some of them might have moss growing upon them, that is all of the nature in which you see. Now, your awakened memories will tell you that that is not normal by any stretch of the imagination. But what they will also tell you is that whatever caused this devastation was immense and powerful and came from the river waters, directionally. Of the structures that you can see even at a distance, there is one that stands out to you the most, as it has a single narrow spire jutting up from its rubble, almost like a needle pushing up through a quilt that has been bunched up on whatever surface it lays. That needle juts up probably a good 25-30 feet. All of the rest are just rubble. I think that you can all also tell that Dig Deep is under a great deal of duress in this moment. So I will pass the spotlight back to you and let you decide what to say or do and what you will do next.
Dig Deep, Dig Deep in slumber, you've seemed off. Is everything... It's not the same.
Death has visited this land. There is no life here. All we see for as far as the eye can reach is just grass, decayed structures, and nothing. On the boat, I felt that nothing, and I worry if that same death still lingers here.
You hear the start of a quiet humming. Wisp will step next to you and place her paw gently on your forearm and just stand beside you as she continues to hum this. It sounds like a lullaby, but it's sorrowful. There is just the slightest element of hope that it brings you, and it should offer some soothing of what you're feeling.
Reishi listens to the music for a little bit and then steps to Dig Deep's other side and places their hand on the other forearm and then beckons Pools to come and close the circle. And Reishi looks at Dig Deep and says, "Death may still linger here, but I have always been a mushroom farmer, and if there's one thing that I'm familiar with, it is that through death comes life. And it may take time, and it may come in different forms than we expect, but it will always come. And I'm going to use my mending touch to spend 2 hope and you can clear either a hit point or a stress, Ava.
Do I have... Oh, okay, cool. I do have some stress, so I'll clear the stress.
You all finish this circle and you look back at this ruined village, not knowing anything about why you have been brought here. I will ask you, what will you investigate?
I guess the structures.
As you move forward then into this village, and you see the many structures that are around, it doesn't take much interpretation to be able to see that this was very likely a place where a good number of people lived. But the remnants of these buildings, the only ones that you can see are stone. You know that is not, because of your awakened memories anyway, you know that is not what the only thing as what makes buildings in a village. And there are spaces, some very large spaces, between some of the stone rubble in which you would have to think that there may have once been wooden structures. They are all gone, as if they were washed away. You see no significant amount of wood amidst the stone rubble either. Every now and then you might spot a large, massive beam, or at least what was once massive and is now just a remnant. But kind of filling in some more of that notion that Dig Deep had. Nothing can live here anymore. You find yourselves moving towards the one building that has the variants amongst the rest, with the needle-like spire jutting out from its rubble. You drift towards it, and you can see that it was a fairly sizable structure, given the amount of stone that has collapsed inward. You start to move through that rubble, looking for anything that might feel familiar or understandable. And I think Reishi spots it first. Some part of Reishi's awakened memory is triggered as they look upon the spire. And just for an above-table description, that spire is a chimney, basically. It's like a 30-foot tall stone chimney. As Reishi sees this spire, this needle jutting out, there is a relief built into the stonework of it. A pair of outstretched hands gestured upwards, as if giving or receiving, and a trio of curvy, wavy lines that flow between them. Very obvious connotations of religion to Reishi, even if Reishi cannot identify exactly what. So as you look around with all of this, you start to understand that this place was very likely important in some capacity of religious or faith. You notice that there is a very large chunk of stone, or rather several chunks of stone that maybe once had been large. There is a series of cracks that run through that show that this stone was very recently riven. Whatever massive bit of stone that it might have been before are now maybe a dozen or more smaller stones. And the gaps between the riven elements of the stones themselves tell you that it is fresh. The cracks are not something that have been there for long. Still jagged and fresh in their scar. And through those cracks underneath, you see what appears to be darkened wood. A door, perhaps. And just shifting even one of the rocks to the side, you see a metal ring or a handle on that door. Curiosity being what it is. Whichever one of you feels that the most, and yes, I'm looking at you, Wisp.
Yeah. I think she steps forward right up to the door, hand out, ready to grab the handle. And she pauses for just a moment to recall not much earlier when this desire would not have been something she would have felt or considered. But that part of her is becoming quieter and quieter, and she grabs the handle to open the door.
You go to lift and then realize that you're going to have to clear rocks and debris out of the way first.
Yep, definitely. Thought maybe it was like a push-in situation, you know?
No, it's definitely a pull.
Yeah.
And there is a certain amount of struggle with some of the stones, but if some of your friends assist, then you can get the debris that is covering this doorway off with relative ease, anyway. As you pull off each of the stones, you can see upon the surface of the wood the marring of that wood that these stones caused. And standing in relief upon the door as well, you see a very similar symbol that Reishi noticed upon the pillar. You go to pull on the handle, and it does not give at first. It takes pretty significant effort, in fact. And you yank on it hard, and as you do, you cannot help but smell wax, honeyed wax, and the door lifts up, and tiny bits, almost crystalline chunks of wax fall down away from the door and onto what appears to be stairs descending downward into a darkened space. Now, based on the things that you had picked up before your hasty retreat from the swamps, you should have torches and the like, if not some other magical means with which to create light, but at the very least you have your torches and can light your way to see down into the space. As the passage slopes downward, you can see these dark flakes of hardened wax scattered like tiny, tiny bits of amber. Some of them fine, some of them chunkier. And you look around the edges of the door frame and you can see larger chunks of them still stuck to the door frame. You step down the stairs leading into this cellar. And you can see shelves, wooden, covered in dust. There are urns upon many of the shelves. Some state of disarray for sure. The ceiling is low, supported by fairly warped beams. But the space is also fairly significant in size. Maybe even slightly larger than the footprint of the structure above. There are several things that stand out to you first. The smell is old. There are hints of incense. And this honeyed wax is extremely powerful upon your nostrils. There's perhaps a faint bit of mildew. You can hear your own breaths echoing off of the walls. Every now and then you swear you hear something shift within the stone walls themselves of this underground space. Your torches gleam against the bits of wax that are scattered around this space, and you see tons of it still present at various spots on the ceiling, pressed between cracks and crevices in the stone above. There's a good amount on the floor, still that same, some powdery, some fine, some chunky bits of this orange-hued amber wax. And as your eyes adjust, you can see shapes on the ground. 5 figures, long since reduced to bone. They sit or rest where they fell. One seems to be on the very far side of the room, near some type of edifice built into the wall itself. One is slumped just to the side of the stairs upon which you come down, near to the door. Another is laying underneath of a long collapsed table, somewhat off-center from the room. And then there is a pair leaning into each other against a wall. Their clothes have long since gone to thread. However, you can see very clearly, shimmering in the light that you carry, the one that is on the far side of the room, near that bit of stone edifice. Something gleams faintly, a necklace round their bony neck. Silver dulled to gray, with a small and round turquoise-colored talisman. Later, when one of you goes to inspect this talisman, you will note that it is carved with symbols in the shape of flowing water, or perhaps a river's curve. As you see the space upon which that figure is leaning, it is very obviously some form of altar, ritual space. There's an alcove. There is a bowl shaped at the bottom of that alcove. And there is a cavity of space above it. And you realize that that is where Spire's base comes down into the ground. You'll also be able to spot that there appears to be a bundle of pages. Papers curled and gnarled and twisted at the edges, with a corded binding of some kind of metal, you're not quite sure what, long since given patina, holding 2 pieces of driftwood as a cover to this series of pages, this book. The last thing that you'll catch is, because it's pretty close to you, the skeleton that is closest seems to have a tiny chisel still in the palm of their bony hand, their boned fingers wrapped around the handle of it, as if they had clutched it in their dying moment. And so I will pass the spotlight back to you. Seeing this space, what do you think you would do first?
The book looks cool. I don't remember if I or we know how to read.
You do know how to read.
Oh, okay, perfect. I would like to look at...
Also, your awakened self knows how to read the languages of whatever age upon which they came from. But even your mundane selves still had to learn to read, even if whatever language they know from today did not exist however many ages ago. Your awakened memories did.
Perfect. I would like to read this book.
As Pools goes over to the book and collects it up, it becomes very apparent quickly that this is a very fragile object. It almost crumbles in Pools' hands, in fact. And Pools has to struggle a bit with keeping it from falling apart in their hand. They open the cover, and there's a tiny bit of writing, but very faint and faded to the point that it cannot be understood. You turn a page and then you see more, and you quickly flip through, and you can see that while many of the pages, at least in this beginning portion of the maybe 15 or 20 pages of the book that there are, have some element of writing on them, very few of them are actually readable. They are so faded with age, as this book was not well preserved, and the ink was probably not the most potent of inks. It becomes very apparent to you, Fools, that this was a journal of the final days of these people. Have a bit of a video to show. And I also posted in our private Discord the journal itself, so that you all can read it as our viewers listen.
Day 1. We were preparing the seals for the festival urns when the roar came. The sound was wrong. Not thunder, not wind, but a breaking. Orvin fell through the ceiling as the ground gave way above. The steps collapsed behind him and the door slammed shut under stone. We heard the river coming even before we saw the water through the cracks. Tovan thought the fastest and lit a torch before breaking open the wax barrel. We burned our hands sealing the cracks, pressing the wax in with cloth and prayer. It held. The water pressed against the stone, but it did not come in. I told them the River Mother would see our faith and turn aside the current. I do not know if I believed it. Day 3. The roar is gone. All is still. We can hear the weight of the world above us, the creak of wood and stone. The air is heavy and sweet from the wax smoke. Kayla asks if this still counts as prayer, and I tell her yes. She does not believe me, but she nods. We lit the festival candles anyway. Their light shakes like trapped stars. Day 6. The wax sweats when the air grows warm. A trickle found its way in, not flood, just seep. We drink it after boiling. It tastes of earth and metal. Orvin says the air vents are still clear above the altar shaft. We hear no wind, but the smoke drifts upward, so something remains open. Tovan keeps working the seals, though his hands shake now. His skill is what keeps us breathing. I dreamt of the river last night. She was walking away. Day 8. Today should have been the festival of returning waters. We dressed the altar with what we could. Dried herbs, bits of wax scraped from the seals, a cup of that bitter seep water. Kayla sang the verses, her voice trembling but steady. Orvin carved a new offering bowl from a scrap of beam, and Tovan poured what little mead remained into it. I spoke the words I have said every spring since my youth. As she rises, so shall we. But I felt nothing. No warmth, no current beneath my skin. Only silence, deep as the stone around us. Still, I smiled for them. I told them the mother tests us, that this silence is her way of listening. Kayla believed me enough to keep singing. Tovan closed his eyes and whispered the old prayers. For a moment, the air felt lighter, not because she heard us, but because we heard each other. Faith, it seems, can be shaped from anything. Even emptiness. Tonight we will share the last of the meat. It tastes of wax and ash, but it is sacred all the same. Day 15. We tried to unseal the door. The wax peeled like skin. Beneath it, only stone, splintered wood, and silence. Orvin says the weight above has settled, that even if we cleared the way, the steps are gone. The air is better now, but thinner. The candles burn shorter each day. We've rationed as best we can. Tovan keeps declining meals, saying the water will keep him strong, but we all know that the food will not last. Day 22. I feel nothing when I pray. Not the warmth in my chest, not the hum in my breath. For years, I told them the River Mother hears every drop, every tear. But now, as I kneel at her carved image, I realize the truth. It was always us, listening to her silence and calling it love. Kayla still prays aloud. Her voice is beautiful, even when she cries. Day 30. The wax burns low. The food gone some days ago. Orvin sits by the door with his chisel, carving words into the wood. Tovan has stopped sealing the cracks. He just sits beside Kayla and hums. I write so that someone will know we lived as long as we could. If the river ever returns, let her remember the 5 who waited beneath her stillness. Let her remember that we did not curse her name.
Thank you so much to Aaron, of Aaron My Laundry fame, by the way, for narrating that little video for me. Love her to death. You should check out her stuff. Fools. Spotlight is still upon you. Hey, thank you, Bradley, for the bits. Huge donation. Thank you so much, my friend. Okay. As Pools reads this journal, do they read it aloud? The entries that they're able to discern? It's also important to remember that they only know that language from their awakened mind.
Mm-hmm.
So they are speaking it aloud. It may even come not necessarily from their voice. Their voice might change to whatever voice their awakened self had in some respects, tonally or cadence and such.
Yeah, definitely. I think at least the voice that comes out of Pools is still their own, but it's definitely pitched up. It's quick. It's it doesn't pause for long. Whereas I think Pools' regular tones are low and slow and all that. I think after like the first couple that they can read, they don't really. But as they start to put together, what's kind of happening, I do think they start to read it out loud as solemnly as their alternate memory self can muster, but
Spotlight is still with all of you. Offer that Reishi probably feels the most instinct towards this writing because of the obvious religious connotations.
So they were trapped down here.
It would appear so.
Is there, Reishi will look over, is there carving on the door?
No, but there is some carving in, some of the wooden elements of the stairs on the side, and on some of the wooden shelving and such that is near to that spot where the one that you know to be Orvin laid himself to rest. Thanks so much for the gifted subs, Bradley. Wow, coming in hot. Thanks, man.
I would like to go over and look at the carvings there.
As Reishi looks, all they find are dozens upon dozens of names. Proper names, some with a surname, some without. There's some part of them that thinks that Orvin was very likely carving the people that he once knew. The others of whatever village he called home. Perhaps hoping in some way that by carving the name, they might be remembered.
I think Reishi picks just one and traces it a few times with their finger and commits it to memory, so that even though Orvin is long since gone, that person's name still is carried on.
Why did the River Mother betray her people?
Do we know if it was truly a betrayal? Or maybe she simply died. Perhaps this was the death that came through here.
And in a way, I think I'm glad that they were the ones to seal themselves in here rather than something else sealing them.
I think it's a little easier when it's your choice.
Take a look at the necklace.
As Dig Deep goes to look at the necklace, he walks past the pair. The two skeletons that were leaning into one another, having since become skeletons. They're somewhat formed weight falling into it, so to speak. She can tell very clearly that their hands were intertwined, one right and one left, intertwined with one another as they laid to rest. She spots, oddly, a pair of metallic rings upon their adjacent ankles. Very, very modestly adorned. Not spectacular, overly artistic. Simple metallic bands. And some part of her memories, some part of her awakened self is telling her that these two were married. Please roll for me a presence reaction roll.
Okay.
Do not forget, you are currently hopeless.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if any of my experience would help with this. So, okay. Seven with fear.
It's a failure, and you must mark a point of corruption. Does that bring your corruption total to?
That brings it up to 5.
Okay. There's a part of Dig Deep that still clings to what gave them that name. There's a part of Dig Deep that still resides in Dormer Hall that they cannot shake in this moment. As that feeling fills them, please describe for me a memory, Ava, that Dig Deep recalls of maybe a wedding or a bonding ceremony or something. I'm going to tell you above table that as you conclude that memory and uncorrupting it,
For there's always a sound of drums with these memories. They're rhythmic, and depending on the mood, it is slow and steady, or they're quickened, almost like there's a chase or a hunt of some kind. But they're always loud. Loud enough to awake something that's slumbering. Loud enough to cover the noise that sometimes comes to us with sleep. I think Dig Deep sees I think she sees a bonding ceremony, but it is a arranged bond between people. It was a city, a town that her people went through at one point. One of her sisters was a medicine woman for the family at one point, and so she was invited to this ceremony and brought this other side with her. There was drums at this ceremony, but it wasn't like her community's drums. It was kind of stoic, there was rhythm, but there was no musicality to it, truly. It seemed very logical, with no real emotion attached to it, and it did cause her awakened self to be a bit saddened. But in that moment, her sister taps her and points to the bonded two. And Dig Deep could see a moment of joy, kindness, togetherness. It was in that moment she understood that sometimes, even when things are arranged, community can still be formed. And these two, with bracelets on their wrist, melded and fused so it can never come off, decided, maybe in that moment, or maybe sometime before this moment now, that they were going to be a community. And she felt a comfort in that, and hope that nothing happened to their community.
Fortunately, as that hope filled that person, that awakened, that person from which these awakened memories come from, it was short-lived. As a being of nightmare, born of nightmare, manifested from seemingly nothingness in this space, and started slaughtering everyone that was within reach. As that person from which these memories came witnessed the first manifestation, were wrought by a sin lord. Dig Deep does not make it to the woman wearing the necklace to inspect it. You all see Dig Deep falter, perhaps going down to one knee, using her staff to support her weight. Very obviously pained by something. What do you do?
I think Dig Deep I think she'll lay her staff down And in a way that it's kind of like a muscle memory whenever she is called to help with a stilling. She does this walk around, almost preparing like a nest type of maneuver, and then wraps herself around a person, body and tail included. She's not going to exactly do the full body because of the fragility of bones, but I think she's going to make like a crescent in front of them and just, I think there's moments of like tears starting to fall from her eyes as she just watches them.
What do the rest of you do?
I think that Wisp feels very affected by like the holiness of this place, and seeing the change in Dig Deep as she kind of goes through that series of emotions. Wisp tries to think of a song, because that's what she does when people have big feelings in any direction. And she really struggles to grasp one. It takes her a while. And it's very unsettling to her. She is able to bring one to mind, but as she starts humming, her voice sort of cracks a bit, and she sort of leans back on her heels and into the silence.
We can wallow for a while, but we don't want to be taken by death here too.
I think Reishi will just do a loop around the room looking for anything else of significance.
The only other thing that you can feel any type of importance to would be the altar and the skeleton with the necklace, which I think is safe to say that you all would recognize probably as the person that wrote the journal. I'll also point out for Pools, in case you hadn't picked up on it. There's 5 skeletons. There was the person writing the book, and there was 3 names of people. Which means that there is one skeleton that is unidentified, and may never be identified. Perhaps their name was on one of the pages that faded. But there is at least one person in this space that truly is forgotten.
I'm going to take a look at the altar, I think.
As you step over to the altar, having read the book, this is an altar to the River Mother. Easily identifiable, even if you don't know the rites or anything really to that. You know that it is important. You also know that this altar, with its spire sticking up, jutting out into the sky, probably the only reason that these people lived. Is when they sealed the ceiling from whatever gaps were causing the water to come in, it would have sealed air as well. So whatever time that these people had together came from the air in which they breathed in this space through that altar's vent. Whatever remnants that might have still been in the bowl of their rituals that they performed while they lived are long since faded. Just for context, it's easily been a couple of centuries at least.
Is the unnamed person, do they appear that they were here at the same time?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay.
She referenced 5 in her journal that you read.
Just not that. Okay. I'll take a look at the necklace. I'm not going to take it or anything, but I'm going to take a look.
You bring down your hand and kind of cradle the pendant of the necklace, which is the only real important part. The chain is still there, obviously, but it's grayed from age, whatever basic silver metal that it was. But the stone is fairly unchanged. It's only been exposed to air, really, in the time since this person passed. And you can see that it is a smooth and polished turquoise-colored river stone. There is the adornment of a trio of wavy lines upon it, indicating flowing water or a river's bend, which must be in homage of some kind to the River Mother. But other than that, there's really nothing overly special about it. However, I'll ask, is there something special to that for Pool's awakened self? Is there something that Pools thinks, knows, or feels that makes it special?
I'm gonna say that the memories, every feeling that Pools has about the River Mother and what they remember about the River Mother, it's a very positive feeling. So going from, I think Pools was a little bit suspicious and worried that the River Mother did this, but feels like the River Mother was actually maybe more benevolent, and will say out loud, mostly to themselves, but to the pendant as well, and will say, thank you for giving them the time that you did, River Mother.
I think since Pools read the journal out loud to everyone, that Pools would remember the entry for day 8. The only piece of ritual that Pools could know about the River Mother was documented in day 8 of the journal. Would Pools say that homage, that quote, that saying that the author of the pages wrote down?
I think they're taking a page from the writer of the journal.
What does that mean?
Well, the writer of the journal, from what I am interpreting from number 8, but I'm also might be just tired in misreading. But like, you know, they still throughout are giving like kind of empty praise to the mother, insofar as it gives the rest of them hope.
Yeah.
And so maybe that, I think maybe Pools is, hoping that giving a more positive spin on what happened here can give us hope and give us maybe some drive to push through.
So do you think Pools would say that then? Would say, as she rises, so shall we?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay. As Pools says that, Reishi, I need for you to make a knowledge reaction roll.
Six with hope.
Okay. That is a failure. But it is not with fear, so you don't gain a point of corruption. Dig Deep is suffering from a little bit of ill effect from this experience, we shall say. Reishi is suffering themselves. And I feel like out of everyone, Pools is less encumbered, we'll say, and Wisp is actually managing decently well throughout everything. So I'm going to say Wisp is the one that sees it first. You see Reishi just like slump over and clutch their skull.
Oh, she'll sort of run over and go to place a hand on Reishi's head and shoulder, slowly, like waiting for permission, and then realizing that they're not really with it, so just, hovering. What's happening?
As Reishi lifts their head and looks at you, they no longer have the eyes of a clank. Their eyes are pools of milky white light. And you see little tiny swirls of black flowing through the bubbles of eyes that they now possess. They open their mouths, and in a voice that is not their own, they say, "We must never forget." And it is in that kind of multitudinal voice of hundreds of voices overlapping with one another upon which they speak. You all see soft light start to fill the room, not from your torches, but from the altar. This light eventually becomes bright enough that you can no longer see the torches. Then you can no longer see the room or even yourselves. Light is all-encompassing. Slowly, coming out from that light, you start to see shapes. You start to smell something. There is darkness, there's shadows starting to appear within the aura of the light. Slowly it all starts to coalesce. You hear the sounds of roaring water. Vast. It's loud. And then, looking around, you don't see yourselves, you don't see each other. You see two figures. One feminine, covered in white robe, dress of some kind. It's very difficult to make the details because she seems to be almost made of light. Her hair is wild and flowing and equally as bright. There are birds made of light that flit and fly about her. She stands on an immense body of water, this rippling flow of water that is carrying detritus upon its surface. Standing amongst some of that detritus is a dark, hooded figure. Their hair seemingly made of vine or moss or seaweed or something. Their hands grotesquely shaped. Tiny specters of darkness seem to just flow out from underneath of their hood. The backdrop of all of this is a darkened, clouded sky with what appears to be the sun slowly being eclipsed by something moving in the way. And as this last reflection of light casts across the lake, or flowing, raging lake's surface, you see these figures staring at one another. The woman is not looking at the figure, though. The woman is looking beyond the figure, where you see, just looking out from the surface of the water, buildings slowly collapsing under the weight and roar and power of the water itself. And as tears of light stream down her face, the darkened figure, with seemingly glee in its laughter, extends its darkness out and starts to consume this woman of light. As you all experience this shared memory, Reishi, you will understand that you are viewing this as a fungrel. Not the fungrel of your awakened mind, no, but another one that witnessed this event. And as darkness fully envelops this scene, and that fungrel that shared this memory with all other fungrels that had lived at the time perishes. Your vision fades, The light of the room fades. You all come back to this cellar, where these seemingly simple folk perished. And you now know, not fully understand, why they perished. Before we end tonight's episode, I would like to pass the spotlight to each of you and ask how this understanding of seeing the consumption of what was likely a god in the old world by what you now fairly certain was a sin lord of the current one, how that affects you, yourself, mundane, or awakened, or both.
For Wisp, much like the rest of the past day has been, the parts of her are warring with each other. I think that her mundane self is still confused by all of the feelings that have been welling up, feelings that she knows came from the knowledge that her awakened memories have given her, but realizing that she is holding on to those feelings herself as well. It's not just memory, it's real grief that she's experiencing. And I think that she would kneel down on the ground and place one of her paws on it and try to feel and listen to the earth in this moment, something that is grounding, that no matter what has happened in that time or now, it's been there. And as she touches it, she listens, seeing if any natural vibrations resonate with her, or if there's anything that she's able to gain. And she begins to gently hum a melody that she hasn't sung before. And it just comes to her on the spot. Much like what she had sang when Dig Deep was struggling, it is a bit sorrowful, but this doesn't have the immediate element of hope to it. The melody continues and spends time in that sadness, letting the feeling of this grief be known. And she feels this awakened part of herself begin pushing forward. And she doesn't allow it to overtake who she is. She doesn't lose track of what she is singing. It just now changes from this grief to something a bit more powerful, something with the knowledge of what happened in this space and the hopes that the people had for the future, and it does fill her with an element of hope when she's not sure if there should be.
Who's next?
I think Reishi is realizing how much other people's actions and choices have affected their life, and it's just thinking about the way that actions ripple outwards, and I think combined with their awakened memories, it gives them a sense of resolution and purpose in moving forward, because of the choices that others made leading to this sort of corruption and the world as it is. I think it makes them want to make choices that will remove some of the injustices of people's lives being the way they are under the Sin Lords.
Hey, Areva.
I think as Dig Deep is looking at these two bodies, there's a moment of realization that kind of hits her in why this fear has affected her so much in this space. She doesn't know a lot about her birth, but she knew that she was found. And she knew she was found in a space that was empty, nothing, stripped of everything that makes life life. And she felt that familiarity here. This nothing, this void, the absence of life. And as she continues to look, she feels the faint drums of her awakened self. And there seems to be a whisper that she hears. The whisper is the awakened self saying, "I feel your emptiness. I feel the song of your void." And Dig Deep doesn't know who she's referring to. She wants to strain to hear more. And it seems that the awakened self is slowly starting to turn, maybe to look into Dig Deep's soul itself, but then there's a scream. And then more screams and more screams. And from what she got from the awakened self is that was the day that emptiness destroyed her family. So now she doesn't know if the awoken through the song saw her and she was the void that destroyed them, or if there was something else and she's not actually a child of the Sin Lord.
I think Pools is just also kind of mired in reflection, both of themselves and the push to survive that they didn't know that they had. They are grappling with the disappearance of Robin and the weight of the deaths of all the people who are here, who likely, if something similar happened in Dormer Hall to make it the way that it was, and the people who have suffered there, it's a lot. It's very heavy, it's a burden, but I think, there are people who stand up, I guess. And even though I don't think Pools would have thought that they were one of them, maybe they can make a difference, even if it is remembering these people who died centuries ago that they had no way of knowing were even here.
Well, all of you come to terms with these grappling, conflicting elements of your duality. We conclude this arc titled The Withering. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us in this somewhat dark introductory tale to what has transpired in this world.